Ref's like the ref.
Yes! Shrewsbury scores! Powers lined up on the left side. Hits the pitch to Johnson. He gets outside. He's in! Mario Johnson! 2-point conversion! The Warriors are up! Unbelievable! 22 points! 16 seconds left!
Did we have that crew before?
Yeah, it'll be Thanksgiving.
Well, welcome to Coach's Corner, a special one. We usually don't do a Coach's Corner this week. We usually
The
wait
week between Thanksgiving.
Either that or we
After
wait until
Thanksgiving,
after
yeah.
Thanksgiving. But
Recap.
we wanted to have this is a special Coach's Corner because we wanted to have Walter Hildebrand, the trainer, on, and of course John and Bobby, Billy, and I'm John Mastro. First of all, just quickly, we'll talk. The game was, we dominated more than the score showed in the paper. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we're 44-13 at the half, right?
There was
I was right
there was
again.
there was 9 minutes left in the second quarter, and there was like 43 points scored between the two. It was 30-13. It was ridiculous.
24-13 after one, right?
Yeah,
Was at 5 touchdowns in the quarter.
it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I think we really challenged our kids like we talked about last week. We went to Eastern Mass and wanted a playoff team and thought it would be a good test for them. And they passed flying colors. So
Yeah.
I was really happy with just, ultimately when we look at the kids' performance, we're trying to look for them, really focus on our program values, effort, attitude, and discipline. And just they played hard. They played discipline. We almost went 3 straight games without a turnover, but we threw an interception. I forget when that was, down at the 1 yard line. It actually ended up being a punt because it was
Yeah.
4th
Oh,
down.
yeah.
So, yeah, we weren't upset with it, but we played clean football, and so it's just a credit to our kids for taking one game at a time and playing hard.
And I'm glad you brought it up because we know, we've been around long enough to know that sometimes when you don't make the playoffs, the effort isn't, it was number 22.
Yeah, you die off.
Yeah, you do, but it was, not this year.
No, and I don't think so. And I think that, playoff team from the East, right?
Yeah.
A chance to make a statement. And, this week we have the number 1 seed in our division, or next week, I should say.
That's right.
Massachusetts number 1, so we have a chance to, it's almost like a second chance,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You think you should have gone farther, and I wholeheartedly agree. So here's our chance to prove it.
yeah.
It'll obviously be a great challenge for us, but
Yeah, they're good.
yes.
And they're typical Wachusett. You saw them, right, against St. John's?
Yeah,
Ground and pound, smash you in the face, right?
yeah. I mean, they're strong offensively. They're strong defensively. And,
The line's good.
yeah,
Couple of good running
Yeah, but
backs.
It's
It's like we say the same thing every
It's a
year.
typical-
Oh, yeah, they're always big.
It's a typical-
Always big, always
we'll
physical.
match up very well with them.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
Looking forward to a great game.
Yeah, we'll be.
And again, our line has been fantastic. And it's nice to have some people healthy.
Nice segue. Nice segue.
It's all because of him.
That's right.
All the credit.
That's right.
That's right.
Walter, I mean, in the middle of the year, well, even towards the beginning of the year, you were the busiest guy on the field.
I stay busy. I stay busy. They keep me busy.
Now
He
you,
was busy prior to
Right.
the start of the season because he's
Oh,
got
no.
them.
yeah,
Right, he's
the
in charge of the
conditioning
It's our
coach.
weight
Yep.
program.
Right. So you, is he in the school, are you in the school all the time?
So I usually come in the afternoons, and I'm there until everybody leaves.
Oh, okay.
So-
All right, so you come in the afternoon and work
Yeah.
until,
The last
the
end of the
last
day,
game was
exactly.
done,
The
Yep.
last practice or.
which was 5:30
Who
most of the time
knows?
this year because of the
Triple
mosquitoes.
Yeah, it's a great fall. Easiest fall ever.
All right, Walter, let's get a little bit of background.
Okay.
You worked for All Access,
Yep.
and and this, the only reason I know this, people, is because we were talking about it. You worked for All Access, and you were contracted to the school.
Correct.
Okay, hold on, back up 1 second.
Yep.
Where'd
went
you go to school?
Yeah.
So I went to school to Bridgewater State. Okay, I went there for my undergrad and my graduate degree. So I have my master's in athletic training from Bridgewater State.
Now, is the undergrad athletic training also?
No,
Is
it's
it like
so it's
biology
technically
or
like a
something?
physical education major, like
Okay.
exercise science,
Okay.
and then I went for graduate in athletic training.
Okay.
At Bridgewater.
So, at Bridgewater.
2
yes.
years or 1 year?
Yep, 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
So at that point, are you doing like physiology and biology? And,
So we're doing everything we need to do to get ready to deal with the day-to-day in this sort of setting. So orthopedic evaluation, taping and bracing, your typical anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, literally everything to get prepared for what you're going to experience on a day-to-day operations.
Did you do an internship
Yeah,
while
yeah.
you were in graduate
Yeah.
I
school?
was
or-
gonna ask that.
So when I was in grad school, yeah, I did over 2,000 hours of clinical observation and participation. I did several surgical observations, PT hours, so thousands upon thousands of hours.
I mean, you're only a couple hours away from being a physician's assistant or something.
Yeah, really.
Well, the difference
couple of-
is I like what I do here.
No, I know, but I
Did you
mean,
do all that at Bridgewater, or did you go to like high
Yeah,
schools around
so
Bridgewater?
we work with different clinical locations, and so for me, worked in a high school setting, worked in the several collegiate settings. Upon graduating, while I was originally working with All Access, working for Shrewsbury, I was also working for Roger Williams University for a couple of years too,
okay.
and I would kind of commute back and forth
Where
between
did
the
you
two
grow
areas.
up?
So I had military parents. I grew up everywhere.
oh, so you were
Yes, I've
all
lived in a
over
lot
the
of
place.
places.
Okay.
Yes. So I was born in Germany, lived in California for a long time, went to high school out in California, then ended up moving back out here. And the rest is pretty much history.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Now, let's talk a little bit about the weight program.
Yes.
You know, in years past, and I can remember this, in the mid-2000s, us having so many concussions.
Oh, yeah.
And this year, did we have one?
Yeah, no, we had.
Did we
Did
have
we?
one?
So when we look at it, I remember years ago, and this is, concussions have been a hot topic for a long period of time. But when we really started seeing an issue was probably 6 years ago. I think we maxed out at 26 concussions for football in one season.
Wow.
And I think John came on the following year. We spent a lot of time talking, Coach Aloisi and I, on the field, in the training room, personal time, meeting, going over ways that we can address this. And, through his efforts, the coaching staff's efforts, and ways that we can address this in the weight room, on the field, our ways we're hitting and everything. I think over the past 4 years combined, I don't think we've seen more than 10 or 12 concussions total. So I commend the coaching staff for what they've done to really put their efforts forth to, work on reducing those. So
I thought what you said when we were in the back room
Yeah.
there too was very interesting. That it's not always the direct contact
correct.
with like helmet to helmet or
Right.
helmet to body. It's more what you would see in a car accident
Sure.
where you get whiplash. That's where the concussions
yeah.
are coming from.
So, and that's probably a common misconception that people have is they think that,
Yeah,
head
everybody
to head
always thinks
contact,
it's this.
exactly. And yeah, sure, you can definitely develop a concussion that way, and it's not unlikely that you would, but you're also going to see it from rotational forces, hits to the body, hits to the head hitting the ground. So there's a lot of other different ways that an athlete can sustain a concussion, and after having these conversations with John, something that he does really good at practice, hitting to a thud versus hitting to the ground. And just by implementing that alone, we've seen a substantial reduction in concussions.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's great.
no, it
That is
absolutely
good.
is.
That's great.
So, go ahead, John.
I was going to say just another thing Walter recommended. We've done this for a few years now, and I think, of course, there's multiple factors at play here, but the neck strengthening that he suggested, that we do it every day. When we stretch, we do neck strengthening. It's
The
incorporated.
isometrics thing where
Yeah.
you
Yeah, the
this
old
kind of
school,
stuff,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the kids spend a good amount of time on it, and they know it's a big point of emphasis for us. And he incorporates stuff. He's got the science side of the weight room, which is great, but he incorporates that kind of stuff too into the program in the summer and spring, and even in season. We lift twice a week in season too. So I think that's been, and he mentioned the being careful during practice, but I think the strength training,
Absolutely.
not just the neck, but everything has helped out so
how
much.
good is it? Really, he's a trainer, but he's also the strength and conditioning coach,
That's-
and he's in the school. He's available for the kids. I mean,
Well, not
it's
only
great.
that, all of that too, but he does a great job. He's great with the kids. It's like checking every box. Having last year I think we had a couple of shoulder injuries, so I talked to him, said, we seem to have over the last few years. I can talk to him about saying, hey, we have this kind of. He sees it better than I do, but if there's a particular type of injury we're trying to address, then that might be a point of emphasis in the program,
Yeah,
which
right.
is, and then again, he takes over with his expertise.
Yeah.
And you start, Walter, like, season ends Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Do you start like right in the wintertime, like in January, putting a program together for them, or they start in the spring, or?
So I mean, going back to the program, it's year long, so we're making
Year-long.
adjustments to it on the fly. You know, we have this big picture of what we want to accomplish, but you know, not every day is a perfect day, not every week's a perfect week. Some weeks are harder than the others. So you know, depending on their workload for the week, again with the triple E issue this fall, we've been able to make adjustments to accommodate, you know, not only their work schedule but the rest schedule that's needed as well. So, kind of answer your question, you know, right now I'm already looking at what we're seeing throughout this past fall season to start implementing into our next program that we'll be starting in the off season.
You know, you gotta remember, Walter's dealing with 4 sports.
Yeah, right.
No.
Exactly.
Just
Right.
4 sports. And then come wintertime, God, he's got,
It never ends.
Well,
Between
Yeah.
when school gets out at 2 and 3 o'clock, when everyone's practicing, it's a one-man show.
so,
And
yeah.
you got a
It's-
couple,
yeah.
couple of helpers.
But it's
Couple,
multiple,
yeah.
not only multiple sports, multiple teams within
Oh,
that sport.
absolutely.
Right,
You got
Absolutely.
JV1,
You got
JV2.
4 basketball
Yeah,
teams,
yeah,
Right.
right?
Right.
At least 4.
Yeah.
Right, you got about eight-
Oh, yeah.
80 kids on the track.
We have so we have 6 basketball teams between boys and girls.
Yep.
We have 3 football teams, the track kids. You know,
Track kids.
there's I
You
think
got,
last.
4 soccers?
Oh yeah,
Field hockey.
oh, 6 soccers now.
6
Soccers, yeah.
And then you got gym, you got other
Everything.
things too.
We got everything.
Gymnastics. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's busy. You know, it's busy. It's a lot of time management. But go ahead.
No, go.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, we've seen as a TV sports team thing, just the kids coming on, how great a shape they're in.
Yeah, right.
They really are. I mean, you know, we've had them all on, and it's amazing to me.
Well, that's good. I mean, those kids they work all summer.
Yeah.
And, you know, Walter's great too, because I think philosophically we're similar. We want the kids to be in shape and we want to keep them healthy, both getting up to the season and in season, but we also they're not in the NFL.
Right.
You know, they have lives,
Right.
they have schoolwork. So I think we share that,
Absolutely.
in terms of like, we gotta have this be realistic for the
Right.
kids.
Right.
With, I think the priority being just keeping them healthy. You know, and
We-
you just, go ahead.
Would you be good with like all guys? Knee problems, wrist
I
problems?
helped you guys out a couple times already.
I think I may have to stop there.
We could give you a full-time job with one of us.
Trust me, I know.
With one of us.
You want to examine you now?
I got this knee off.
Now,
Yeah.
the core strengthening.
Yes.
You work a lot on that. Now,
Lot.
see, people
It's a
would
major
think,
emphasis.
football players, they just go in there and, you know, it's all about lifting the metal.
Uh-huh.
But it has much more to do than just lifting the metal.
Oh yeah. So I gotta be honest, a major emphasis year round is developing core strength and maintaining the core strength once we have it. You know, I see my biggest concern is, you know, athletes, you know, trying to move too much, get under the bar and move too much. So for instance, trying to squat too much. And the problem is, you know, eventually, yeah, we want to be able to move big weight, but at the same time, I need your core to develop at the same rate as everything else. Because if your core is falling behind, then that's going to be your weakest point, and you know, injuries are going to happen. They're going to find the weakest point, and that's where they're going to give, and that's what it's going to lead to. So, you know, if we look at, you know, I think the first 9 weeks of our off-season program, it's all our major emphasis is about core development, and then we branch out from there. So that's not saying that we're doing core exercises all day, every day, but there's a core component to every single thing we do to try to develop that core at the same rate of everything else.
I think it's a testament to you and to him, because, I mean, how many perfect attendances did you have in,
Oh, yeah,
in the
we've
weight
had
room?
It's amazing.
We've had great attendance, yeah.
Well, that means it's a couple of things.
Yeah.
They like what they're doing, and they like the people that are instructing them what to do, and that's you guys.
Oh, it's a big-time division program,
Yeah.
Exactly.
and it's recognized as that. And having Walter there full-time, well, that's a great accomplishment
It
It
for
is
the
a great
school.
accomplishment.
He also scaffolds the workouts too, so like our freshmen to come in, they're not doing the same thing as the seniors.
Right.
So the freshmen are more
Yeah.
fundamentals.
Oh yeah.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if they're doing any barbell lifts their first year. Their dumbbells, their fundamentals, their movement, their
Yeah.
core flexibility, and then as they get, I think we have it, scaffolded in three levels, right? And then there's the sophomore type kids, juniors,
yeah.
and then you have the.
Yeah.
So we actually have 3 programs in season. In the summer, we have two separate ones. The younger kids are doing something different. Then they're lifting at a different time. And he has to train me. I have some pretty solid knowledge and experience with this stuff, but we've sat down. He'll write the program, and we have to go through the whole thing. And he's showing me all the little cues to execute, and my staff too, because we're the ones that are usually there.
Speaking of staffs, I see people around you all the time out on the field. Do you have a staff, a trainee staff?
You know what? I tell you what. I'm glad you brought that up because no, I don't. But every season, I typically take on 3 or 4 high school student interns. That way, they can come in, come learn, come get experience. They get nothing from it but knowledge. There's really no other incentive for them to do it. But getting
Are they thinking about being trainers?
how do
you choose them?
So what I do is I make the kids interview for the process because I want to make sure that the kid's actually invested in it and wants to be there. Because realistically, it doesn't really help me much, But at the same time,
But you're responsible.
I'm responsible for them. I want them to not only represent what I'm doing in the athletic training room, but they represent our program as well. So I want good representation. I want them to believe in the systems that we're trying to implement. But again, I want them to be invested, because they're going to be putting in some hours, and they don't get credits for this. At the end of the season, they'll get a pat on the back, great job. I hope you learned a lot. They'll get a letter of recommendation someday. But they get the experience and the knowledge. And I've had a lot of former interns go out and do some amazing things, whether or not, they're in an athletic training program, they're in a physical therapy program, a nursing program, an optometry or dentistry program.
Yeah, right.
I've had a lot of former interns go out and do amazing things. So the ones that I have right now, Logan Duran, Adam Chatterjee, Sanvi Sood. I have a college student, Kiara Koriazi, from Endicott College that's been here helping out. I had another college student come back who I've never had any experience with, but is a former Shrewsbury alum. Her name was Laurel Taylor. She came last week to come just to get knowledge, just to come learn. So thank you for allowing me to recognize them. But
That's great.
They help out with like the day-to-day operations, make sure, again, if you come down to my room at 2:00, it is a madhouse. So they help, create some order for me, help me prioritize, who needs to get in, who needs to get out, get ready for our taping and practice prep. And it really is. It's triage on a daily basis.
I was going to say, I can't even imagine how much tape you've used over the years.
So I use a lot. Actually, I probably tape a lot less than other athletic trainers because my rule of thumb is if you're not going to rehab, so if you're not going to do anything to try to get this better, then you're not going to get taped. Okay. So with the idea of, we're going to tape you now to add stability and support, but eventually we want to wean you out of this. So, the muscles or the structures of the leg or the ankle or whatever we're taping can be supportive enough versus using the tape.
Why so many ankle injuries?
I was just going to ask that.
You know what? So
Freaky accidents.
I think, they really are. And I mean, to be honest.
Is it the turf, Walter?
No, I don't think so. I don't think the turf has anything to do with it. It's just, it's the nature of the beast of football. If you look at any sport, you're going to see a lot of ankle injuries regardless. When you're talking about, running at maximal speed, stopping on a dime and changing direction, you're going to see something break down. So, to be honest, I'm not surprised by the numbers that we're seeing. I don't think we're seeing too many. You don't want to see your star players, ever have an injury. But at the end of the day, if we can manage it appropriately, the idea is to lose as little time as possible.
I think that's the focus too. You see a TJ who hurts his ankle or an AJ.
Sure.
That they're playing all the time. They stand out more than
absolutely.
Somebody who gets hurt,
Absolutely.
nicked in practice that you may not.
That's the reaction I had. I don't think the volume's been there.
No.
I think it's happened to some of our more prominent.
Right.
Yeah, maybe that's
Right.
what it is.
And that's,
Maybe we've had 3 or 4.
I think it's been, I think it's only been 3.
Yeah.
And there was a point during the season where we thought everybody was walking like Bobby.
That's
in
true.
trouble.
We'd get in a lot of trouble.
Well, no, but when we think about it, it was starting quarterback, starting tailback, starting wide receiver. I mean, that's why probably we noticed it.
Right.
But I think it's fantastic that you have him on your staff.
And you know what? Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
The invisible part of his job that I appreciate that I don't know that I've ever told him this, but communication with parents. You're trying to run a program where the kids are kept safe, where the parents are informed. I mean, he does all of that. So
you don't have to deal with
I mean,
that.
it's just a huge,
You might.
doctor's paperwork for clearance and all that stuff.
Sure.
I mean, if I'm managing that, it would be just an entirely different job for me. So, but I do so much, it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
I mean, and
absolutely.
again, it's not just football that he's doing that.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? I don't really look at the rosters in detail, but they ever got the athletic trainer on it as well? After all the coaches?
Yes,
on
I
there.
think he's on.
He's on there
He's
for
on
sure.
there.
Yes.
I tell you
He's
what.
on
Just put him up at the top.
Yeah, they even put me in the program and everything. Got my picture with football. Love it. Yeah.
Very good.
I-
Do you-
I ju-
Go
Go ahead.
Do you do anything with like weight management for some of the guys?
So we talk a lot about, I have to disclose, I'm not a nutritionist. So
Right,
I can
right.
give advice, but I can't necessarily say this is what you need to do this, and that to be able to do that. But, we can look at, their caloric intake, their energy expenditure, so this is what you're taking in on a daily basis. This is how many calories you're roughly burning. These are the foods you're putting in your body. Are these necessarily the best choices you're making to be able to perform like an athlete?
Yeah.
One line I like to use is, if you want to be an elite athlete, then you need to eat like an elite athlete. You need to hydrate like one. You need to rest like one. Okay, you got to put in the effort if you want to see your ultimate goal of, playing at the next level or whatever it may be. So,
Right.
we have conversations and we try to give them some, advice and some, guidance. But at the end of the day, if they do need legitimate nutritional consultation, they
refer
need to go
them.
see a
Yeah,
nutritionist.
right.
Yes.
I don't know how he does. I'm thinking. I'm sitting here. You're talking. I'm thinking. Let's see. We got field hockey. We got football, soccer,
I know.
boys and girls, and we got lacrosse.
Yeah.
I mean,
And athletic, remember, two-part
Baseball.
job, athletic training and the weights.
wait.
Yeah.
I know.
Because even for us, we have 3 phases to our off-season program. So we're doing winter,
Oh, right,
spring,
right.
summer.
Yeah.
Every time it's
He's
not
in
like
there.
he rolls out a program from
Oh,
February
yeah.
to August.
Right,
Actually,
right.
in
Yeah.
season as well, right? So
Yeah.
there's 4 different times throughout the season where he's going to gather information,
Oh, yeah.
get everything down on paper, meet with me, go over it. So it's not a
Yeah.
singular thing.
As a parent, if it was me, as a parent, and we've been fortunate, there was always a trainer at every football game our kids played, but I would feel comforted
Right.
by the fact that he's there.
Right.
Because the other thing, and I know we're throwing a lot of praise
Yeah.
on you, but it's
Well,
well
thank you. I
deserved.
appreciate it.
What I also like is that you're not making the decision
No.
the kid's gonna play, it's him.
That's right.
He
And-
takes the
and-
helmet, that's
Which
it.
I think
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely great.
It is.
It really
It
is.
is because, as a player myself, a long time ago, and him too,
Yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah.
play. I didn't want,
Right.
it hurts a little bit,
Yeah.
but nowadays, it's
right.
completely different.
But I know, like, we've had instances where, like I said, philosophically, I think we're on the same page a lot, where we'll see a hit sometimes and say, I walk over to him and he's walking over to me, and we're kind of saying, like, hey, we got to get this kid checked
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
And fortunately, like you said, for me, if there's any questionable anything, I just say, go
Oh,
see
yeah.
Walter.
Well, you know,
It's
that's
out-
great,
it's out of my
because a
hands.
lot of times the coaches, all they're gonna do
Sure.
is push toward the kid,
Right.
playing.
Right.
Even if he's only 60%, or,
Right.
they're saying him at 60 is better than another kid at.
Well, we're both
100.
parents too, and I
Yes.
think
I
that
know,
when you
that has a
you
big
genuinely treat the kids as someone's kid.
Yeah,
I mean, if
yeah.
you got suspicion of a kid being injured,
Yeah.
you gotta, get them looked at.
Yeah.
So,
I am sure there even, like I said, I'd be comforted as a parent, but I'm sure there's parents out there too saying, for crying out, he can play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it Walter?
It happens. It definitely happens.
Those are
It
the
happens.
exceptions. Those are the
I
exceptions.
know, I know, but I'm sure it
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
It's always interesting when
Yeah.
you have to talk to parents.
Or you have a mother and a father that kind of disagree. Father says, yeah, he can play, but
Yeah, exactly.
One question, when
Yeah.
the team comes, do they always bring a trainer with them?
No.
So
So-
you're even out there with them?
Yes, which can't happen. So we're fortunate in our league where a lot of the schools in this league do have an athletic trainer. But for instance, the school we just played last week, they didn't have anybody travel with them. So if something would have happened to one of their athletes, it's my responsibility to go take care of them.
do you
So-
travel with the team
Yep,
every game?
Travel football. I'm there
Okay.
at every game.
Every
No
game.
matter what, every game.
So if there's a conflict, you're going to football.
Gotta go with football, yep.
Oh, football's, yeah, how do you
Yeah.
prioritize? Because I'm sure there are
So
times.
if we do
Most
have
contact.
conflicts, usually, Jay Cost is very good about scheduling when it comes to football or really any sport. But Football is the priority. It's a collision-based sport. There's a high probability of substantial injury with it. So I'm going to travel with football. If we did have a conflict where there was something else going on at the school, which typically does not happen, we would we'd contract out coverage for that event. So that way I would be with football, we'd get another AT for that event at home or whatever it may be, and that way both events are covered.
How come his mother?
Who?
Was,
Ottawa?
Yeah.
Ottawa's mother?
Yep. Tanya. Yep.
Yep.
She's covered for me plenty of times. She's
Yeah.
awesome. She's
Oh,
great.
she's a trainer too?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
So if you're going on an away game, like the field hockey team's going somewhere, and
Sure.
there's nothing else happening, do you have to go if they have a trainer at,
For football or?
Oh, no, like, I'm talking the field hockey.
No. So football, I'm required in my job
Okay.
to be with football.
Okay.
So.
You know, winter sports, you're gonna go hockey prior to
Yes.
basketball.
Yes.
Instead of
Again, because
basketball.
of the
Correct.
contact.
Right, and again, we'll try to contract out. We'll try to get somebody to cover that basketball game.
Cover the
But I
basketball
will be
game.
with hockey. Yes, correct.
Because there's a lot of times, there's
Yeah,
conflicts.
yeah.
Oh, there's times where we have boys and girls actually play it at once, and then we have
Yeah.
to get somebody else there too.
Some-
do you ever coordinate with the other high schools to
Oh,
say, okay,
absolutely.
we're gonna send
Absolutely.
somebody so you don't have to go?
So
type
for
of
instance,
thing?
even for hockey, sometimes if we're playing that other school and that other AT wants to travel, we'll
Yeah.
ask, hey, would you mind covering this until I can get there? When I get there, I'll take over. Or I know, we have a girls game going on at the same time. Would you mind covering the boys? I'll cover the girls. They play at the same rink, so
Yeah, right,
it's
right.
not as big of a deal.
Right.
So.
That's nice.
Such a benefit for the high school and the program to
Is he
have-
part of the school?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yep.
that's, he's there every day.
No, I just wanted to
Yeah,
confirm.
no, it's just such a tremendous benefit to the athletes that
It
go
really
to the
is.
school.
Well, I mean, ultimately, we want to develop tough kids, physical kids in the game, but we also want to keep them safe. I mean, we have a lot of informal conversations saying like, hey, I'll say to him, where are we this week? I kind of get a sense of if we're, we've got dealing with a few injuries.
Okay.
What do you think? Maybe we should back off on contact this week. We have when we did it about this week, we kind of talked about a general plan for this week in practice. So that's incredibly beneficial too, because he is probably, well, I shouldn't say he knows as well as I do how many injuries we have, right?
Yep.
But we're just constantly in communication.
That's
I think that's a big benefit. Us being on the same page, like you was just saying, we do spend a lot of time talking on our personal time, texting back and forth to each other late at night, saying, hey, you know what, this is what's going on with so-and-so. He has a question regarding, so-and-so's issue. Yes, they can go tomorrow. What do you think about lifting this day or whatever or whatnot? So there's a lot of behind the scenes, efforts that are put in. And if I could say something, I commend, what they're doing as a coaching staff, what Coach Aloisi has implemented. People always think you have to go 100 miles an hour 100% of the time. And the problem with that is, more often than not, late season, like now, you're burnt out. You got kids that don't want to be there. You got kids that are banged up. And,
Physically beat.
Exactly. So, and in games that matter most, you don't have the guys you need in the game. And I don't know if we were saying this earlier, but, we're healthier now as the season's ending.
Yeah,
We're
it's
getting
seen that
healthier.
way. It's seen
Exactly.
that way.
So,
Yeah.
Well, ask him when he's going to go to college.
Yeah. We got that.
Well,
Right? Bridgewater.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
for coming on.
Yeah.
This was fantastic.
And thank you for being here.
absolutely.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you, guys.
Thank
I
you for being at
appreciate it.
Shrewsbury.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we love having you around.
And after the show's over, I got a problem with that.
My knee too. My knee.
Yeah, so that's only the beginning.
Just run.
I know. Oh, I know.
All right, we'll see you. We're gonna have one more show with the captains on after the Wachusett game on Thanksgiving Day. Come out, the game starts at 10:15.
10:15. Yeah, get your tickets
Senior
now.
day probably
Senior
start
day,
at 10.
10
Yeah,
o'clock.
10
Yeah.
o'clock.
Yep.
Yep, got a lot of kids. We'll see you next time.